And now we will move on to our next presentation, which is how you can utilize the standard functionality within the enterprise configuration powered by VT technology to improve your sales productivity with guided selling. To deliver this, we will have Heiko Markgraf with us, and he is coming. Hey, Heiko.
Hello.
So Heiko will be doing this next presentation, and that's really on how we can have a deep dive into guided selling and how this will improve the whole sales productivity around enterprise configuration. Heiko Markgraf is a manager for technical presale engineer at Configit, and he will go through the presentation and demo. So Heiko, stage over to you.
Yeah, thank you, and welcome also from my side to the summit. As mentioned, we will now talk a bit about how to improve the sales productivity with some standard functionalities of the VT technology. I'm talking to a lot of customers, and very often when it comes to guided selling, there are high advanced features and functions mentioned, like AI and optimizations and so on, but very often not the full capabilities of the configuration engine are maybe used. So I called it here the quick wins. So we will talk a little bit into the standard functionalities our VT technology offers to improve the usability without having a lot of extra effort to invest into the project. And you see the agenda. So before we start into the VT features, we will take a look at a typical example of a runtime-based configuration engine, how a user guidance can look like in worst case, and what are the typical challenges with such runtime-based engines. And then we will take a look on how we can improve that with several features and functions of our technology. Then we also will talk about that it is important to make these functionalities also available for the users and aware of it. And of course, mobile and offline usage is still a big topic. So when we talk about a typical runtime engine behavior, there are typically some points which are a bit bother the user or which are a bit annoying. And the first point here is that when you have wizards where you don't need any kind of wizard. So when you force users to go in a certain order through configuration, that can be sometimes quite annoying when you have to go through it. Also, dead ends would be very bad if you enter a situation where the configuration engine says, sorry, that's not possible to get, and you have no way out to figure out what you have to remove to get this option. So you have to maybe reset the whole configuration and start again. And that's, of course, time consuming if you already have done 20 selections or even more. And also some engines are hiding no longer available features to avoid conflicts. But that might be a user a bit more like, hey, there are no features and functions available. This company does not offer this functionality. But it is just hidden because you have made some wrong selections in the beginning. And that's also, of course, a little bit bad. And maybe don't understand me wrong, wizards are not generally bad. Wizards are bad when you force customer to go in a specific order through the configuration. Wizards can be helpful when you would like to guide a user a bit more, like if you are in front of a shop and the one user would like to get a shirt and you say, hey, go left around, and the other one would like to get some shoes and you say, go right around. So there can be good ways or good reasons to use a wizard, but they should be optionally, and they also should guide the user. So they should not force a user to use it and to go in a specific direction to just avoid the bad behavior of a configuration engine. And I have created a small video of a usual configurator like that. And for all the videos, or most of the videos, we keep the UI very simple for a reason. Just to focus on how the configuration engine behaves. Of course, you can enhance that with, as we have seen in the beginning, with nice visualizations. You can enhance it with more media informations like images and videos and so on. But in the moment, we would like to keep it really down to the functionalities of the configuration engine. So here in the video, you can see a car configuration. It's running with a runtime-based engine. Some typical selections you know from a car. And if you go through such a runtime-based engine in a not defined order, it can be that you do some selections and that everything is fine. But at a certain point in time, you maybe select something which looks available, but for any reason, the system says after the selection, oh, sorry, you can't get that. So there's a conflict. And often these engines does not offer a lot of nice information about how to solve the conflict. And there can be even more conflicts and problems. And yeah, the messages could be even more worse. So very often you have to reset your configuration and start over again. To avoid that, what happens very often is that the configuration will be put into a specific path, a wizard is often called, and you can only run through in this order. But the problem is then, of course, you start with something which is maybe not that important for you, and very later on you get to something which is very important for you. And in worst case, the system is not showing it longer. So there are, for example, more rim designs available as shown here. There are more motor power available. And at the end here, you can't select the massage seat, for example. And you don't know what you need to change to get to this option. So these are some examples of a bit bad user guidance here. I have to take the right one. Yeah. So how we can improve that? So as I said, we don't want to look into very sophisticated technologies like AI or something like that. We really want to use some standard functionalities which come out of VT to just improve it without any extra modeling effort or something like that. And yeah, we will run through some metadata, so how you can use some metadata in the front end to show the user more about the information behind. We will talk about the order independency, conflict solving and different solving strategies, exclusion of features, and solution space. And if you would like to learn more about the VT technology, so we will deep dive here, you can talk to people on our technology booth. You can go to the content library and also our website. There you find some papers about our technology. So let's first start up with some metadata the configuration engine returns. And I picked here two of them. So one is the assignment reason. So why is something assigned? Is it by default rule? Is it based on user selections? Or is there no other choice left and the rule has selected it? And also some valid domains are very important. So it's quite simple to reduce some selections in a selection view, but also numerics can be somehow shrinked or cutted to the valid domain. And also this information can be made available. So when we look at the next video, it is more or less the same UI. It's the same configuration, same rules, but this time we're using the VT engine. And you can see here that the numeric input here already has valid domain information. So it says what is possible and what not. And if you enter something which is not available, the system tells you. And also this valid domain is changing based on your selections. So now you can see what is still valid and what is no longer valid. So the system knows these details, also for numeric informations. And also what can be helpful for a user is why certain selections are here. So you can see there are some user selections, there are some rule selections, which the system has automatically selected as there is no other option available. So these are some meta information you can use to give the customer a bit more context of what is possible to enter and why certain selections are done. Additionally to that, you can also create a kind of delta view of what was selected before and what is selected after to give an information like by selecting these following defaults, following elements and so on was removed or added to the possible solutions. The next point would be order independence. And the difference, as mentioned before, if you force your user to go in a specific order through it, is that it does not fit for everyone. Every user is somehow different. Every user has different needs. So when I would talk you, when I would ask you, what is the most important thing for a car for you, I'm pretty sure we would get a very distributed view. Because there are users who focusing on the motor size, users who need a specific size to carry the whole family. There are users who would like to have a nice audio system or a high security or something like that. So every user is somehow different. Even an AI system would be maybe have challenges to fit the best order which fits to all of them. So it is very important that you offer the user the capability to go through the configuration in any order. So let the user select what he wants to select first, and then go through what is most important for you, and end up with a less important one. So here again, you see the same configuration, and it's starting from the bottom with the massage seat, and you can see automatically which elements are no longer available, independent in which selection. The rule system, the VT technology, knows all the possible combinations and can give you direct feedback independent on the order you're going through. So you really can choose your own order, which is most important for you, start with that, and then select up to the one which are less important. Or maybe they will be at a certain point automatically selected and reduced to something which fits. And we also see in the next slide, when it comes to conflict solving, how important also the selection order can be for solving a conflict. So when we talk about large configurations, you will earlier or later get into the situation that you would like to select something which is no longer available. So that's quite usual. And then it's key that the configuration engine guides you out of that. So that the configuration engine helps you to figure out what of my previous 100 selections I need to change to get this feature here. So I've indicated it here with different rectangles. So the red one is the possible solution space. The green one is a valid one. And you can see I now want to move from a valid one to one which is based on my selections no longer available. And usually there is not only one path to get to these solutions. There might be multiple one. And they're different. So our technology based on the compiled solution space knows what are the possible ways, and can offer you different ways to solve that. And one way here, for example, if you look at the selection order of the options, is that the last gets the highest priority, and then it goes from the first you have selected to the previous one you have selected. So that way, it takes into account that you have selected first one of the most important features for you, and the previous one was less important. If that does not fit, there's another out-of-the-box strategy. It's called the last then removes the fewest. That means the last one you have selected, which is in conflict, gets the highest priority. And then it tries of the others you have selected to remove as less as possible of the previous selected one. And another one is last to first. So it really goes the opposite direction as you have selected them, and puts these priorities on your assignments. And if all of these does not fit to you, no problem. We have another one. It's called by priority. So you can put an own priority on each of your assignment. And based on this priority, it is trying to solve it in a way that the one with the highest priority keep and the other one are removed, so that the one with a high priority can stay. Of course, it depends on how many selections you have done and how the restrictions are there. Sometimes there are multiple ones, sometimes there are just one way to solve a conflict. But as more selections you have done, as higher the probability that you can change it in different ways. And another one which goes a little bit into this direction might be the phases and scopes we have. So with phases and scopes, you can define certain characteristics which are kind of skipped for the conflict solving. They are locked because you don't want that the configuration engine says, hey, if you change the build date to something in the future, you could get this feature. Or if you change your market from Germany to US, you could get this feature. So these might be conflict solvings you would like to avoid. And for that, you can use our scopes and phases. So let's look into an example. So here again, the car configurator, I already have done a couple of selections here. So we have a partial configuration, and we now would like to select something which is no longer available, 200 horsepower here. And you now can see if you want to get the 200 horsepower, you have to remove the wheel size and the number of doors. And down here you have the different strategies, and you can change the strategy, and you can change how the removals now change. You can see it. So now you can change it with a massage seat. And by priority here as an example, you could use try to keep these functionality, which automatically sets these to a very high priority and tries to, again, to solve the conflict. So this way you can use the different ways to solve the conflict in your UI. This is, of course, a technical example, so it might be not exactly the way you would like to present it to a user. But important is you have the capability. So you could maybe add a list of the assignments, and you can drag and drop around your assignments. The next one I would like to talk about is exclusion features. Sometimes you not only want to say, I want these features, sometimes you want to say, I definitely don't want these features. So when we think about a colors of cars, there might be 20 colors, and you maybe just want to have a few of them. The rest is not interesting for you. So that way you can specify which one should be excluded, and based on this exclusion, also other features might be removed from the possible solution space as they are no longer possible to get. And also that you can see here in the video. So here are different body types. I'm pretty sure not all of these body types are interesting for you. So what you typically do is you skip the selection, you go to something else, but then accidentally you end up with a body type you maybe don't want to get. So in this case, a convertible. So that's, of course, a bit bad because you now have to solve this conflict and so on. So instead, you can go in and say, I would like to exclude certain values. And now you can specify which of the body types are interesting for you. So in this case, I keep 3 of them, and the rest are disabled. And the system can tell you, based on the rules also, what other options are now removed. So you can see it's automatically selected the number of doors and seats. And you can see here also that certain other options are no longer available. And the cool thing is also the conflict solving works with it. So when I select something which is invalid, and we do that in the next selection, I think, then the conflict will also recognize it, that this filter here is in conflict with the selection, and you have to remove this filter. So this is very helpful if you really have a long list of options and you want to reduce it to the numbers of options which are relevant for you. Yeah, there's of course something the user expects and functions you're offering, and maybe it's a bit related to what Jens said, that you have 80% thinking we're doing a lot to improve our usability, but there are 8% of the customers saying, it's not that great. And that might be the reason why there could be a reason is that they are not aware of these functionalities and capabilities of your configurator. And for internal, it's quite simple. Salespeople and partners you can train, but for external visiting your website or your web shop, you also need to give some guidance and make them aware that they can use these functionalities because they don't expect it maybe. And the benefit is, of course, as simpler it is to get the right configuration in your configurator, as more difficult it feels in your competitor configurator maybe to find the same solution from your competitor. And when we look here as an example, so that's nothing related to our VT technology, so that's just a front-end functionality. You can add a guided view here, which introduces the different functionalities, gives the right focus so that a user can learn, okay, I can filter down the options to the one which are relevant for me, and continue with that one. So this way you can make your users on a website or in a web shop aware of certain special functions you're offering, which are not that usual in a configurator. Another nice functionality is that in any point in time, you can receive a list of the left valid configurations. And that can be quite interesting when you have something like a product finder, product filter. So if you have done a certain configuration, you have some configurations which are no longer available, they are invalid, and there are still some which are available. And if you would like to get all of them in a in a list and a table view, you can use our Solution Space Explorer. This one will take the available valid combinations and can convert it into a solution table. And this solution table you can present to a user as a kind of product selection, for example, for component configuration. And that's what we have in the next video. So here are small pre-selections. You can also skip that with directly going to the next step button. And then you get here down a list of the possible combinations. So these are really possible combinations out of our VT technology. So there are 360 available, 200 are displayed in the view. And now when you're configuring, it will go down to the numbers which are relevant for your use case. And also it's offering down there a request button if you don't find what you was looking for. And you now can see whenever a change is done, the solution space is reduced to the one which are valid. So we are on 240, we are now on 60, and so on. You also can add additional information like which of them are on stock, what are the typical delivery time, are they ready to manufacture or only on request available, and also functionalities like the conflict solving are available here. So here you can see how it can be styled in a modern way. For this example, we used the Fiori UI created by SAP, so it has a SAP-like view here. So this way you can make your configuration available in any application, also with a native UI look and feel. So these are quite nice functionalities, and the nice one also on that is you can have these functionalities also on mobile devices, and you can have these functionalities also offline. So you don't believe how many salespeople I meet they have to sell in a desert. Just a little bit overdriven, but there are many spaces of the world where we do not have any internet connections, and for that it's also important that you have offline capability, that you can configure your product with the full functionalities and user guidance you are used to have. Yeah, so that was a bit what I have prepared for this session. We of course talked here a bit more about the sales-related features and functions of VT. You can also use it in different other areas and different functionalities. And if you're interested to learn more about, you can visit me also on the CLM booth here on the CLM Summit.